Well, let me tell you about myself just a minute. I started off from a poor family. We did not have very much money. My father and mother did not always have jobs. From the time I was 10 years old, I worked in the neighborhood to earn my own money, to pay for my own clothes, and I never took money from my parents again from the age of 10. I did not graduate from high school. I finished in the half of the class that makes the top half possible. They say that everybody is good for something, even if it's only to be a bad example, and I was a bad example. So when I left school, the only job that I could get was washing dishes in the back of a small hotel. And when I lost that job, I got a job washing cars with a car company. And when I lost that job, I got a job washing floors with a janitorial service. I thought that washing was going to be in my future, but it was a downhill trend. So when I lost those jobs, and lost, when you say I lost a job when you're young, it means that you got fired. When I got fired from these jobs, I would go to the next job. I used to live in my car at one time because I didn't have a place to live. I would work in factories, sometimes in the afternoon, sometimes overnight. I worked in sawmills and lumber mills in the mountains. I worked in construction labor. I worked on farms and ranches. I worked on a ship in the North Atlantic. I did laboring jobs for many years. How many people here are in sales? Okay, well, that's what I got into when I couldn't get a laboring job as well. So I know where you're coming from. So I got into sales, and I didn't know how to sell. They told me that all you have to do is talk to enough people and you'll be successful. Well, I wasn't afraid to work. So I went and began talking to people, but nobody bought anything. So I would talk to more people, and still nobody bought anything. So I began to run from place to place so I could be rejected more often. And I did this for about 6 months, going around in circles, and every so often, occasionally, I would make a sale, which was just enough to stay alive. Then one day I did something that changed my life, and it brought us here together. I went to the top salesman in my company. He was selling 10 times as much as anybody else. And I asked him, "What are you doing differently from me?" And he said, "Well, let me see if I can help you." He said, "Show me your sales presentation." I said, "What's a sales presentation?" He said, "Well, it's a logical and orderly way of selling your product." And I said, you mean there is a logical and orderly way of selling?" And he said, "Yes," and he showed me a logical, orderly way, which I'll explain to you a little bit later. And so I began to sell in a logical way. It's very much like phoning with a telephone. If I ask you for your phone number and I say I will call you later, and you give me your number, well, then I can take out my phone. They provide these phones in the hotel. Anyway, and if I know your number, I can put in your number, and the phone will ring and you'll answer the phone. Now, if I give your number to someone else, they can phone you. As long as you have the right phone number, you can get through to the person. But what if I said to you, "I will phone you later this week," and you said yes, and I said goodbye? And you say, "Well, don't you want my number?" I say, "No, it's no problem. I will find out your number by pushing the buttons." And so I'll just push your number and say, "Are you there?" "No?" Well, I'll just push some more buttons. How long would it take me to get through to a person if I just pushed the buttons randomly? Probably my whole life. Probably never. But if I had the right numbers in the right order, I could get through immediately. If you sell in the right order, if you do anything in the right proper sequence, you make far better results than if you just do it randomly. So he showed me how to sell systematically. So I began selling in a logical order, and my sales went up. And then I began reading books on selling, and my sales went up. and I began listening to audio programs on selling, and my sales went up. And then I began to attend conferences like this, and I still remember the first one that I attended. I'd never been to one before, and I sat and took notes, and then I practiced what I learned, and my sales went up and up and up. And soon, I was the top salesman. Soon, the person who started me was working for me. Within a year, I was in charge of all the salespeople. Within 2 years, I was in charge of 6 countries, and I had 95 salespeople. And my whole life was transformed. Now, what I learned was this. What I learned was the oldest law in human philosophy, the oldest law in human history, which is the law of cause and effect. The law of cause and effect says that everything happens for a reason. It says that success is not an accident. Failure is not an accident. I learned later that my friend, who was earning 10 times as much as anybody else, had worked for a large company some years before. The large company had spent 1 year training him in professional selling. As a result, he could go anywhere, in any country. He could sell any product because he had the formula. He had the recipe. He had the system. And once he shared the recipe with me, I could sell as much as I wanted anywhere I went. And once I shared it with other people, they could sell as much as they wanted. Today, when I travel around the world to countries that I have worked in before, where I've recruited salespeople, I meet them again, and they are millionaires. They are wealthy. They own their own businesses. They own property. They have large bank accounts. These are people that I recruited new off the street who had no money, had no job, had no sales skills, and I trained them in the method of selling, and today they're wealthy. All over the world, they're rich. I sat down with a gentleman who worked for me many years ago, last year. He is now worth about $25 million. And when he came to work for me, he had only old clothes and no money. He had not eaten for about 2 or 3 days. And I took him in, and I gave him food, and I got him clothes, and I taught him how to sell. And today, he's a very wealthy and powerful man. He owns many businesses. And I said to him, I said, you know, I am very proud of what you have made of your life, of what you have accomplished. And he said, yes, he said, and I still remember where I started when you taught me how to sell so many years ago. So, is it possible? I have some news for you. Nobody is better than you, and nobody is smarter than you. No one is better, and no one is smarter. Now, this is a major problem that we have in adult life. When you're growing up, you compare yourself with other people. Other people get better grades than you. You work hard, but still other people get better grades than you. When I was going to school, I got terrible grades at school. In fact, there are people in this room who got poor grades in school. Yes. And we know who you are. You may be sitting next to one of those people right now. This is what happens. If somebody gets better grades than you, you think, well, this person is smarter than me. So therefore, if this person is smarter, then I must be dumber. So therefore, why should I try? Because he is smarter, and I'm dumber. Then we go to the next step. We think, well, if he's smarter than me, he's probably better than me. But if he's better than me, then I am worse than he is. So then we think, well, he must be worth more than me, so I must be worth less. And this is the big problem we have, is we always look at ourselves as being less than other people. What changed my life was when I discovered that nobody's better than you and nobody's smarter than you. People are just smarter in different ways. People have different talents and abilities. When I was going to school, there was a boy who got top grades in every class. He got scholarships to the best universities, and he never worked. He was very friendly, and he never worked. He always got top grades. If he got 99% in an examination, he would be angry with himself because he always got 100%. Today, he sells used cars on a small car lot in a small town. And that's what he's been doing for 20 years, selling used cars. Me, I didn't even graduate from school, and I'm doing better than he is. Here's my point. Nobody's better than you. Nobody's smarter than you. He just had figured out, he had learned how to study. And studying is a skill. You can actually take a course in study skills, and if you take the course in study skills, you get straight A's from then on. If nobody ever gave you a course in study skills, then you may have gotten poor grades in school, and even today, 20 or 30 years later, you're still thinking, well, I'm not very smart because I didn't get good grades in school. And what that does is it causes you to put your foot on your own brakes and hold yourself back. Instead of setting big goals, you set little goals. Instead of persisting, you quit. Instead of becoming really successful, you think of excuses and reasons why it's not possible. Oh, I'm too young. Oh, I'm too old. Or I didn't go to college or university. Or I didn't come from a rich home. Or I'm not handsome. Or I'm not beautiful. Or something. We always think of reasons to hold ourselves back. Congratulations. Keep going. Never give up. And your success is guaranteed.